I was saying, y'all, it's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and like I promised, man, at least 2 videos a day, but again, I'm trying to work on getting it up to 3. But today, we're here to talk about the most important key dates and deadlines that are coming up for this Commanders 2024 offseason. It's so interesting. I mean, every new offseason is very fun. You know, I'm Mr. Glass Half Full, Mr. Optimistic, but even just beyond that in a normal offseason, that fact that we're starting all the way over. Josh Harris wasn't owning the team as of right now. He bought the team like in July, like after the draft. So this is like new owner, new GM, new head coach, new everything under than that, literally other than wide receivers coach, quarterbacks coach, and then some other assistant coach somewhere down there. Everything else is completely new. I feel like our roster is going to even be extremely different from the previous roster as well. So this offseason, more than others, is going to be very exciting. I feel like if we end up becoming a Super Bowl contender, that I really feel like that this organization is working on building right now, hopefully sooner rather than later. I feel like this is gonna be the offseason that we look back and be like, yeah, that was the catalyst for that. They set the groundwork. This was the first step to turning the burgundy and gold back to what they used to be in the 80s and early 90s. I'm super excited. So we have all of the most important dates, and of course, with each date, I'm gonna break down what it is and why it matters the most to the Commanders. Of course, these dates just matter to everybody in the NFL, but I'm gonna specifically break down why Commanders fans should be excited about certain dates and why y'all need to circle specific dates on y'all calendars, some more than others. There are some dates where it's like, yeah, that's interesting, that's important, but there are some dates where it's like, y'all better set an alarm in the morning and be ready for that one. So we got to talk about the NFL Combine that's going down, of course. That's within less than a week. Buckle up for that. Free agency, draft, 5th-year option deadlines, and more. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Really appreciate y'all staying patient with me because I'm really trying my best to set aside some time to be able to get in the comment section and read and reply to all of y'all comments. I'm working on it. Stay patient with me, and I have so many video ideas. This is one of like the important ones I wanted to get out the way. It's still pretty fun, but I have a lot more like really fun deep dive videos that I'm gonna do like soon after this one as well. But this one, it just kind of felt like before we get into the combine and stuff, let me let y'all know what's ahead off season wise. I'm super excited, so make sure I stay tuned for all of the content. I'm about to start working on film sessions for draft prospects. I'm doing more mock drafts, everything. So without further ado, man, let's go and get to it, man. Let's get it. All right, first of all, I want to shout out Bill from Hogs Haven for putting this list together. Just definitely want to make sure that I give them the shout out before we start to dive into all of these dates, because they did a great job of putting all of the information in one area. Typically when I do this, you know, some places will have some information, some places will have others, and then normally I have to kind of have them side by side and be like, okay, this lines up with that one. But Hogs Haven did a great job of like going in chronological order, being very detailed and serious about these dates. So I just wanted to shout them out before we dove into it. Now, what's already passed by, you had the HBCU Combine February 19th, and even though this is something that has already happened, anything dealing with HBCUs, I'm gonna shout it out. Even though this is technically future dates type of video, I'm gonna find a way to talk about the HBCU Combine that happened February 19th. Again, I already did a video talking about how Doug Williams was there, and I mentioned a few standout names that you may want to look towards as far as like the draft, some guys that you may be able to get like the 6th, 7th round, maybe some potential undrafted free agents that we may want to look at. And then also February 20th, I've already done a video talking about this as well, but this is still important just to let you know, if you missed it, beginning on February 20th through March 5th, 4 p.m. Eastern time, clubs may designate franchise or transition tags on players. So that's on our end. I already did a video breaking down who's most likely to get franchise tagged out of all of our unrestricted free agents, like a Cameron Curl, Kendall Fuller, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, so on and so forth. And when we're talking about the rest of the NFL, guys that we may be interested in, like an Antoine Winfield, safety from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or the wide receiver Mike Evans from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can only franchise tag one of them. So somebody's going to be available out there. And I would prefer Antoine Winfield just based off of need more than anything. But still, then you also have Brian Burns of the Panthers. We'll see if the Panthers franchise tag him. Josh Allen, the edge from the Jaguars. We got to monitor that. You have Bryce over there from the Jets as well, the edge rusher that we may want to look at. My boy Jonathan Grenard from the Texans. Maybe he'll be available. We'll see. We'll know as of March 5th, 4 p.m. who got tagged or not. And then from there, let's let loose, man. Let's get it. Let's start to talk about who's available and things like that. Then February 24th, as in today, because as of right now it's 10:06 p.m. Eastern time, but earlier today they had the HBCU Legacy Bowl at Yulman Stadium at Tulane University. So again, I just wanted to shout that out. Anything HBCU, y'all are gonna hear it. Then February 27th is the start of the NFL Scouting Combine, Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana, per usual. I know they were talking about potentially moving it somewhere else, but then something happened, and now it's at the very least going to be there, I believe, next year at minimum. But, I mean, I'm just going to assume that it's going to stay in Indiana for forever. I mean, until some major change happens. I don't know why exactly they were talking about potentially moving it somewhere else, because it's been there for so long. So it'll be pretty weird. Who knows? But either way, NFL Scouting Combine starts February 27th in 3 days. Technically, a lot of y'all will be watching this and it'll technically be within 2 days. Either way, I'm super excited because with us holding the number 2 overall pick, I don't know if a lot of Commanders fans have really thought of it like this, but the draft technically starts with us, because I'm willing to bet so much money that the Bears are taking Caleb Williams and going to find a way to trade Justin Fields either before the draft, during the draft, or whatever. So I really feel like the draft technically starts with us, where we're like the first pick in the draft, where it's like, really, what are they going to do? Drake May, Jayden Daniels, trade back. Or maybe they believe in Sam Howell so much and love Marvin Harrison so much that they just take Marvin Harrison Jr., run it with Sam Howell instead of trading back and getting like a tackle and running it with Sam. I mean, we have so many possibilities. And I feel like at the end of the day, once we had the number 2 overall pick, there were no wrong answers for real. I mean, technically there are, but I just feel like I trust this organization enough to where no matter who they take at the number 2 overall pick at quarterback, especially if it's between Jayden Daniels or Drake May, or even if we trade back, any of those options, I feel like they're going to go about it the right way, and it was the best decision for this organization moving forward. Adam Peters, what he's done with the 49ers, the belief that I have in Dan Quinn and the coaching staff that he's assembled here, how much belief I have in Eugene Shin's analytics and things like that, I truly trust that they're going to make the right decision. So my main point is, when it comes draft time, I feel like whether we stick at number 2 and take Jayden Daniels or Drake May, trade back, trade up, even though I feel like that's the least likely to happen, I'm happy regardless, and I'm ready to rally behind whatever we end up doing, because I trust the staff so much that I'm assuming that they made the best decision possible. But the reason I'm talking about all of that is because the draft starts at number 2 overall, because most people, including me, assume that we're taking either Drake May or Jayden Daniels number 2 overall. And this combine that's going to start in a couple of days is going to be a time when we can actually see these guys kind of together in the same space. Now, granted, I don't necessarily expect like a Jayden Daniels to run the 40 time, but you never know. Justin Fields did. So, I mean, maybe, but we're going to get to see those guys throw, hopefully. So that's going to be really fun. Of course, we're going to get like interviews. We're going to get like all of the behind the scenes things. Like, you know how we do the updated list of players that the Commanders have met with to kind of get an idea of who they're potentially looking at, and not only what position, but specifically like what round we may be looking at for certain positions. Because if we interview 100 edge rushers, but when you're looking at draft boards and you're looking at the fact that maybe the highest rated edge rusher is only projected to go second round or later, it sounds like you can bet that we're not going edge rusher in the first round. Even if we were to take our 2 seconds and trade back up into the first, you can believe that we're more likely to take, say, a tackle or a DB or a receiver or a tight end or something like that. So this draft process really starts with the NFL Combine. We get the meetings and all of that. We get the interviews. I'm super excited. I mean, and then also the really interesting part about the Scouting Combine, even outside of the draft, all players, I mean, all scouts, coaches, GMs, even some owners are all there at the same time. So when it comes to these trades that are going to go down as soon as the tampering period starts March 11th, and we'll get there as well, a lot of those trades are being talked about and done behind the scenes during the combine, because this is one of the very few times in the entire NFL season, the entire really calendar year that like everybody's at the same spot, because the Senior Bowl, a lot of people were there, but not necessarily everybody. Remember, Ron Rivera just straight up didn't go to the Senior Bowl last year, and then we didn't hire Dan Quinn until like the last day of the Senior Bowl, so that's not mandatory. But like the combine, everybody and their mama's at the combine, so this is literally the time when trades are probably being talked about the most in person. Of course, people can still talk about trades over the phone, over Zoom, however they communicate, but like this is the time when everybody is in the same rooms, passing by each other in the same hallways, shaking hands. So this is where relationships are developed, and that's another reason why I'm really high on Adam Peters and the fact that we have like Bob Myers and Rick Spielman in the building, because of their extremely healthy relationships with agents and other teams, GMs and owners and things like that. I feel like if we do want to make any trades, we have the right guys in the building, because we didn't burn any bridges on our end. So far with this current coaching staff that we just brought in, this current front office and everything, we don't have burnt bridges. It feels like with the previous regime, we did. Even if we were going to make a trade, teams were going to require us to give up too much value in return, just simply because, to put it in layman's terms, they just didn't rock with us like that. But Adam Peters is loved around the NFL. So the scouting combine, even just beyond the draft, is very important when it comes to really how the entire season is about to shape up. Of course, with us having the second overall pick, we're looking at Jayden Daniels, Drake May, and of course Caleb Williams as well, if he does anything there. But I mean, even outside of the quarterback situation, we have 6 picks in the top 102 picks. We're trying to figure out what DBs we could potentially get, offensive linemen, edge rushers, tight ends. Like, we have a lot of positions. We're rebuilding, y'all. We are looking at a lot of different positions. Typically, when we go to the scouting combine, depending on who you ask, a lot of the times we're like, yeah, we got like 3 or 4 positions in need that we're really trying to focus on. Right now, especially with the rebuild, and especially the fact that we only won 4 games last year, which led to us having the number 2 overall pick, you can argue that we have a position of need in every position possible. I mean, Joey Sly isn't even currently on the roster right now. We may need even a kicker right now. We need a long snapper. We need everything. Tressway, like I've already explained in another video, could potentially be a cap cut. You may need a punter. We literally need every position in football going to the scouting combine, which makes it a little bit more interesting for Commanders fans, which is why you can see my excitement. Like I always say, man, the regular season, great. I mean, I live for football. I live for watching football and things like that. And of course, I can't wait for us to finally get to the postseason. But this off-season stuff, when we're talking draft and free agency, is probably the time I'm having my most fun as a Rico of Street Scores. When it comes to recruiting for my Georgia Bulldogs, and when it comes to the free agency and draft for my Commanders, man, I'm in heaven. So I hope y'all are feeding off of my excitement. And on top of all of that, remember, we have pro days as well. But from February 27th through March 4th, workouts of a school's pro day eligible players with players outside of the scheduled pro day activities that the schools are holding are prohibited. But private dinners, meetings, and interviews, all of that are permitted. But like when it comes to like a pro day, other than the ones where like Georgia's having a pro day and Alabama's having a pro day, Ohio State will have their pro day and things like that. Outside of that, you can't really just do your own little Commanders pro day just yet. You know what I'm saying? So that's prohibited for the time being. And again, pro days are big as well. It's not as necessarily as important as the combine, because the pro day, instead of people being compared to each other, is more so like, let me show what I can do. Things are scripted. The pass, like for quarterbacks, the passes are scripted. Of course, as Commanders fans, we're going to be locked in on UNC's and LSU's pro day. I think I heard something like the whole entire ACC is having their own pro day. No, it's the Big 12. I think the Big 10 or the Big 12 is having their own pro day for like all the schools at the same time. I'm tuning into that. That many players having a pro day at the same time sounds like blockbuster TV for a guy like me. But UNC's pro day, Commanders fans, we better tune into that whenever we officially get the date and announcement and time for that. Same thing for LSU, for Jayden Daniels. So we're going to be tuned into all of those. And I mean, why not pull up the Caleb Williams? Even though I don't think he'll be available, I think he's going to put on a show. But pro days are important, especially when you're looking at like who went. Like, who's on the Commander side? Did Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury go to the LSU pro day versus maybe like Drake May's pro day with UNC? Did only like one of them go to do their due diligence, but it looks like they're more interested in the Jayden Daniels? Because honestly, with us having the number 2 overall pick, it's never strategically smart to show your cards. But with the number 2 overall pick, what can a team really do to you? The Bears are definitely taking the Caleb Williams number 1 overall. Nobody else picks before us after that. So whoever we want, we can come out today and say, hey, we're drafting Jayden Daniels on April, I believe, what is it, 27th? No, April 25th. just know, like around 8:30 p.m., we're taking Jayden Daniels or Drake May, whatever example you want to use. And what can a team do to stop that? So, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't really, we can show our cards all we want when it comes to quarterback situation. I hope we don't do it with other draft picks once we start to get to the second round and things like that. I don't want to show our intentions at all, period. But it's kind of like, even if you do, as far as quarterback goes, what stops you? So I'm like, maybe we'll be a little bit more transparent as far as who we're interested in. Maybe we send more guys to go watch Drake May's pro day versus Jayden Daniels and things like that. So it's a lot of little things. But outside of that, it's really not that important because, again, especially for quarterbacks, everything is kind of scripted. They know what throws they're gonna throw. They practice those throws before the pro day actually even happens. I'm pretty sure Jayden Daniels and Drake May are already practicing the throws in subsequent order already that they're gonna do on their pro day right now. They probably already have it memorized. They're good to go. They're gonna put on a show. Remember, Zach Wilson killed his pro day. Look how that turned out. Trey Lance killed his pro day. Look how that turned out. So it's just like pro day, you don't want to put too much stock into that. But also, just going back to the combine real quick, another big thing about the combine that we're about to start getting as of February 27th in a couple of days is official measurements. How big are guys? How tall are guys? How far can they jump? How fast are they? How quick are they? I'm super excited about that. But even just beyond like the 40 time, the agility drills and vertical drills, explosive drills and things like that, which are very important. I can't wait to start giving y'all the RAS scores that are coming out of it and stuff like that. Shouts out to the RAS people that are doing all of those calculations. I love that stuff, looking at who's the freak athletes with the charts, green, yellow, red, and things like that, with the score out of 10. But also, especially like Jayden Daniels wise specifically, we need an official weight on that guy. And I'm pretty sure that man has been eating and trying to bulk up as much as possible heading into that combine. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up at a weight that makes people a little bit more comfortable, but then he also doesn't run, because with that extra weight, he's probably tests slower than he actually normally would test in an actual game when he's not focused on bulking up, specifically to weigh more for the combine to improve his draft stock or to make him more likely to get picked by us number 2 overall. So I could just see it's kind of politics. It's like a weird strategy game. You know, you can't take too much from it because he could easily come to the combine and weigh more than what people expected, and then we draft him, and then by the time we actually get to the regular season, he's back down to his slim weight and he's able to run fast again. But now those worries about him potentially being a twig can come right back. So, you know, combine, all of this stuff is really weird. You got to know what information to take and to consider and what information not to. But either way, I'm really excited, and I feel like I talked about this way too long. I apologize, but man, like I said, I'm really excited. Also, the new league year starts officially March 13th, but even better than that, the legal tampering period starts March 11th. That's when free agency kicks off, man. I'm super excited, man. During the period beginning at 12 p.m. noon, New York time, Eastern time. I'm not even about to do New York like that. Y'all not about to be that special. Eastern time, all right? Eastern time on March 11th, ending at 3:59 p.m. Well, 3:59 and 59 seconds p.m. Eastern time, not New York time. On March 13th, clubs are permitted to contact and enter into contract negotiations with the certified agents of players who will become unrestricted free agents upon the expiration of the 2023 player contracts at 4 p.m. Eastern time on March 13th. During the above 2-day negotiation period, a prospective unrestricted free agent who is not represented by an NFLPA certified contract advisor is permitted to communicate directly with the club's front office officials. That's really interesting. So like a guy like, even though Caleb Williams is being drafted, so he's not included in this, but Caleb Williams is a guy that plans to enter the draft without an agent. If you're a veteran NFL player, not a drafted player like Caleb Williams, like a draft prospect, but if you're a veteran player, that applies to you. If you're a guy that just happens to not have an agent, there you go. Kind of like a Lamar Jackson, I guess is the best way to put it. Excluding the head coach and other members of the club's coaching staff. So you can meet with front office members. You're not allowed to meet, for our example, like with a Dan Quinn, but you can meet with like an Adam Peters regarding contract negotiations. Also, no prospective unrestricted free agent is permitted to execute a contract with a new club until technically 4 p.m. Eastern time on March 13th. But again, March 11th is the legal tampering period when people can actually start to communicate with agents officially. Anytime before that's technically not allowed. March 11th is when we start to see them rapid fire announcements. Such and such has agreed to a contract this long for this much money, this many years, this much annual value and things like that. And then it's like March 13th, it's actually pen to paper, it's official, and then we get the more detailed things like how much is the roster bonus, signing bonus, all of that type of stuff. So March 11th is when we start to see, the more surface stuff. Like, say, for example, in Commanders' point of view, what I would hope to see as of March 11th, Commanders sign Brian Burns to a 5-year, $20 million per year contract. That's all you see. That's all you get. March 13th is when, in a scenario like that, you would get the more detailed numbers. Like, how much is this cap hit the first year, then the second year, then the third year? Are there any void years? Are there any random perks in here? Any like incentives for him? Like if he gets a certain amount of sacks in the season, how much he gets paid? All of that stuff starts to come out March 13th. But of course, March 13th is when a lot more players still get signed. March 11th, some years is a little bit more quiet than March 13th, but a lot of the times March 11th is things just kick off immediately. And then March 13th is still exciting, but it's not as exciting as March 11th. But March 11th, 12th, 13th, we'll see what happens. For our point of view, what matters to us the most is how aggressive are the Commanders going to really be? Are we going to be big spenders in free agency? Are we about to attack this aggressively? On one end, like I've explained in previous videos, I can see us not being aggressive in free agency because this is technically a rebuild. And Joe Witt Jr. even said it as far as the DB group, but I think this applies in a lot of places on the entire team, that he was basically saying, man, let's wait to jump the gun and potentially like overpaying for like a veteran guy, bringing them in here, and we haven't even had a chance to coach these guys up the way that we coach them up, the way we develop guys, the defense that we put them in for them to succeed. He's basically saying, like in Emmanuel Forbes, I know he looked terrible last year with Rivera, Jack Del Rio, and Brent Vesselmeyer and all of those guys, but with Dan Quinn, me as in Joe Witt Jr., and Jason Simmons, we could have him looking like a first-round pick again. So don't jump the gun and go sign like an Xavier Howard in free agency because you just assume Emmanuel Forbes is bad. Let us get our chance to coach him up first. So that could apply to multiple position groups. That could apply to potentially defensive line. Not edge rusher, though. We got to get edge rusher. Linebacker as well. You probably need to go ahead and get one of those in free agency and the draft. Both linebacker and edge rusher are that dire of needs. But maybe like receiver, instead of going after a guy like Mike Evans, maybe you just re-sign Curtis Samuel and then we add more receiver talent in the draft. You don't go too money crazy too early. Offensive line, maybe you wait till the draft. More so like a supply and demand situation, more than like, are we not willing to spend that money? I just feel like it's smarter. Like this is not a really good tackle free agency class. There's like a Tyron Smith out there from the Cowboys and maybe a couple of other people, but when you're comparing the tackle class in free agency to the draft is way better, way deeper, way higher ceilings. So we'll probably just wait there as well. But either way, man, free agency's coming up. I'm super excited. Like I've already talked about in previous videos, we already have a bunch of unrestricted free agents. We already have guys that's been cut recently, like Xavier Howard and Emmanuel Ogbah, that we may look into. But then also you have some more cuts that may happen. Maybe some guy that a team, like say example, Team A has a player that's potentially leaving in free agency, and then Team B finds out that that player from Team A actually is more interested in joining Team B than they originally thought, and then now they got to cut somebody else to make room for that guy because they didn't even think they could get that guy before free agency started. There's going to be all sorts of cuts happening left and right for whatever reason. Again, cap cuts, just like Xavier Howard and Emmanuel Ogbah were for the Dolphins. They literally cut them just simply because we need the money. And maybe they're doing that so they can go ahead and sign Tua to a long-term extension after June 1st or whatever they got going on. But there's a myriad of reasons why players will get cut. So I'm saying all of that to say that don't be surprised that if you're looking at the free agency class and who we have available at tackle, at edge rusher, at linebacker right now, you know, whatever you see right now, yeah, it's pretty good in certain areas. It could get even better potentially because people are going to get cut left and right for so many different reasons. And then, of course, March 13th is officially when the 2024 league year ends and free agency period begins at 4 p.m. Eastern time. The first day of the 2024 league year will end at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time on March 13th. Clubs will receive a personnel notice that will include all transactions submitted to the league office during the period between 4 p.m. Eastern time and 11:59 p.m. Eastern time on March 13th. Trading period for 2024 begins at 4 p.m. New York time after expiration of all 2023 contracts. So that's another notable thing. We can start to like get the free agency stuff going, like as far as signing veterans March 11th, but trades officially technically start March 13th. So when the league year officially starts, that's when the trade market opens. So March 13th is typically very active as well because that's the first day we can do trades. March 11th is typically more active as far as such and such is going to sign with this team. But March 13th is when Team A is going to trade this player to Team B for this compensation. So I'm really excited. And then also moving on, March 24th through the 27th is the annual league meeting in Orlando, Florida. So this is going to be the first time that Josh Harris attends that. We're going to have Adam Peters as our GM instead of the 49ers assistant GM. We're going to have Dan Quinn as our head coach instead of the Cowboys defensive coordinator, so on and so forth. Completely different look to the Breaking It Go. We're going to walk in there with so much more respect. Just thinking about going from Dan Snyder to Josh Harris, from Ron Rivera kinda and Martin Mayhew to Adam Peters and Eugene Shin and Lance Newmark, from Rivera and Jack Del Rio and Eric Bieniemy to Cliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. Like the difference in respect that we're going to demand just by simply walking in the door with the different aura that we have. Dan Quinn with his hat backwards. Joe Witt Jr. with the shades on. Same thing with Adam Peters, the shades on. Josh Harris doing awkward handshakes with a certain confidence that he got. He got a little swag to him too, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be different, man. I'm excited even about the annual league meetings to see what comes out of it. That's typically when they start to discuss different things like, are we considering changing these rules? Do we want to make some changes to the kickoff? We experimented with certain things last year by tweaking a few rules. Do we want to keep those moving into next year? Things like that. So that's when a lot of that type of stuff happens. Then April 1st, clubs that hired a new head coach after the end of the 2023 regular season may begin off-season workouts. That's us. That's us, y'all. Remember when Rivera took over in 2020, he never was able to get that, because teams that hire a new head coach in the offseason are technically supposed to be able to start offseason workouts 2 weeks before everybody else in the NFL. And I believe it's like 8 or 9 of us in the NFL that have new coaches this cycle. So it's only going to be like 8 teams practicing on April 11th, and we're one of them. But remember, sadly for Ron Rivera, he just happened to take over during the COVID year and all of that. He agreed to become our head coach before COVID was even like a known thing. And then we weren't able to do that. We had to wait till everybody else. So we never had that 2-week head start when Rivera took over. And I'm not saying that's the reason that he ended up getting fired eventually 4 years down the line, but I do want to, acknowledge the fact that, yeah, man, poor Rivera didn't get that. But luckily this year, we're going to get that. We're going to start April 1st. Everybody else, clubs with returning head coaches may begin off-season workout programs April 5th. Then April 17th, deadlines for clubs to time test, visit, interview, or conduct physical examinations with a draft eligible player at its facility. So basically, soon after the combine, all the way up to April 17th is when we can fly people out. Basically, again, from our point of view, that's the purpose of this video. I'm speaking to you Commanders fans. We can fly people to Virginia to actually work out in front of Adam Peters, Eugene Shin, and Eugene Shin's more the analytical guy, but Adam Peters and Lance Newmark and Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., Cliff Kingsbury, all of our assistant coaches. That's the time when we can bring these guys in. And in certain situations, maybe our coaching staff doesn't trust the combine results of a guy's weight. They want to weigh them themselves. They want to do their own physicals. They want to see them run a 40 time with their watch, their own watch, not the combine watch, this like kind of the general consensus watch in time that everybody uses. They may want to do their personal one that they always reference themselves to compare it to previous people that they've used with that same clock. It's a lot of little things that you get out of that. And also, of course, looking at who we bring over to Virginia to interview in person, to have them work out, shows how interested you are in those players. Now, granted, it's a new regime. Maybe they're different, but last year with Ron Rivera and company, you saw the interest in Quan Martin before we took him. You saw the interest in a few guys before we ended up taking them. And that's when we're going to, but somewhere up until April 17th, April 17th is a deadline to do this. We're going to have players flying out. And that shows you as a Commanders fan, hey man, you may want to adjust your mock drafts to, okay, the Commanders, you're limited. You can't just fly everybody out. You have a limited amount. I don't remember the exact number, and I apologize for that. You have a limited amount of players that you can bring in for those visits. So if you're bringing them in, there's strong interest there. But at the same time, you can push back against that and be like, there's some guys that they don't even need to fly out because they know everything they need to know about him already. He's already passed the test with flying colors as far as interviews. When they sit down at the combine, a lot of the times some coaches will literally bring up film and tell them, when you made this mistake, why did that happen? Or in this situation, what would you do right here? Like they do full-blown film sessions like they would as if the player was already drafted to the team, ask them questions, put them in different situations. And if somebody, say like a Jayden Daniels or a Drake May, kills that in the combine and the Commanders completely love what they saw, combine, pro day, testing, measurables, weight, height, arm strength, strength, mobility, and things like that, they may not even need to fly a guy out there and still end up taking him second overall. Just to warn you. So again, a lot of this stuff that we're going to see throughout this offseason, especially with it starting to be lion season, you're seeing rumors being thrown around everywhere. Some are for clicks and views, some are for attention. You never know. But just know that not all information is good information and accurate information. Do what you got to do. Take what you need to take. I'm pretty sure all of us are going to see the same things and then come away with different opinions and results from it. So that's what makes the off season so fun, because everybody has an opinion, and that's why I love it. I love the fact that people have different opinions from me. Makes it more fun that way. The April 19th is the deadline for restricted free agents to sign their offer sheets. So for the Commanders, that includes David Bada, Brandon Dillon, Curtis Brooks, Tucker Addington, Alex Akumbulu. My boy Jabril Cox, please bring him back and give him another chance. I'm not necessarily saying that he's like a starting Mike linebacker, but I think at the very least he has the talent to be a strong rotational player that actually sees the field on Sundays, unlike what Ron Rivera and company did with him. You took him from the Dallas Cowboys practice squad just to not play him until the last game of the season, and you barely played him in that. I'm still confused about what that was, but I'm just happy that they brought him over. So we have first dibs on him. He's a restricted free agent. So if Adam Peters and Dan Quinn want to bring him back for extremely cheap, they can. So hopefully they do. But also moving on, the next important date, April 24th, is the deadline for prior clubs to exercise right of first refusal to restricted free agents as well. So that's when that whole situation gets interesting, because with restricted free agents, when you offer them a contract, another team has a right to try to match that contract, and everything just gets really complicated and things like that. So those are those dates. And then this is also the deadline for clubs to time, test, visit, interview, including video and phone calls, or conduct a physical examination with a draft eligible player at any location. So April 17th, like I talked about, is the deadline for you to do it in Virginia. April 24th is the deadline to do it anywhere. So just to warn you. And then the NFL draft, April 25th through the 27th. I'm super excited, man. Y'all really don't understand how excited I am about this draft. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all are, man. But I literally live for the draft, man. I've been watching so much film and tape lately. I'm super excited. And just to give you the update, according to NFL mock draft database, we have the 2nd overall pick in the first round, the 36th overall pick in the second round, the 40th overall pick in the second round as well from the Bears in that Montez Sweat trade. Then we have the 67th pick in the third round, 101st pick in the third round as well. That one comes from the Chase Young trade. So actually, we have 5 top 101 picks, 6 103 picks, because we have the 4th round, 103rd pick overall as well. Then we have the 138th pick overall, round 5, 181st pick overall, round 6, and 220th pick overall, round 7. And I'm pretty sure, knowing Adam Peters, especially with how great he is at finding talent late in the draft, finding all pros and pro bowlers, rounds 3 through 7 like it's nothing, I'm pretty sure they're all going to have the logic, the more picks, the better. So I would be very surprised if we actually ended up leaving the draft at the end of April 27th and we spent those exact picks. I'm pretty sure we're going to do a lot of movement. I think the only scenario where we're actually kind of likely to trade up is if we take quarterback number 2 overall, which I think is most likely, but then maybe they package those 2 second round picks and trade up to the late first to get a tackle, to get like a true starting left tackle for us if you definitely do like confirmed want to move on from Charles Leno. You never know. Maybe this organization is higher on Charles Leno than we are as fans. I know I'm ready to draft a tackle, but you never know how Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury and Adam Peters, Eugene Shin, and all of those guys feel. And speaking of Eugene Shin, again, Adam Peters is already the best late round draft GM arguably in the NFL. But then on top of that, Eugene Shin with his analytical models, and he's just purely analytics guy, believe in the analytics, trust the data. He already said it himself out of his mouth, 2 later picks is better than 1 earlier pick. So I would be very surprised if we don't end up moving back somewhere in these rounds. Like say we get to round 4 and instead of picking 103rd, we trade back and get like an additional 6 to trade to pick same round 4, but like pick 108, and then we pick up an additional 6, so now we have 2 6th round picks or something like that. I would be very surprised if we're not very active in the draft, because they're trying to rebuild this team, start all the way over from a clean slate, and you need as many good players as possible. And again, with Adam Peters' ability to find great talent late in the draft, the more picks the better. With the previous regime, I'm like, nah, trade back for what? Like, what are our chances of finding a hit in the 6th or 7th round with Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew running the show? But now with this front office and this coaching staff, first of all, even just beyond scouting and finding the right guy, I trust this coaching staff to also take a guy, develop them, and bring out the best in them to get closer to the ceiling than their floor projection. So, hey man, the more picks, the better. Outside of the number 2 overall pick, because I do prefer to take Jayden Daniels or Drake May, even though if we do end up trading back and getting like a Brock Bowers or Olufashanu Joel, Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm still happy. Like I said earlier in the video, we really can't miss. Once we had the number 2 overall pick, you have to be really bad at this to mess that up. Trade back, whatever you do, I'm happy regardless. I prefer Jayden Daniels or Drake May. But back to my point, I think outside of that 2nd overall pick, us more than likely take a quarterback, it's free game after that. I can see a lot of trade back situations for us. Then May 2nd is the deadline for clubs to exercise 5th-year options for players selected in the 1st round of the 2021 NFL Draft. For our case, that's Jamin Davis. Do you want to pick up Jamin Davis's option? It's no point for us to even spend more time on that because they're not. It's so expensive, it's ridiculous. Then May 3rd through 6th, or May 10th through 13th. It just depends on which team you are and who gets picked for which set of days. But those 2 sets of days is when clubs may elect to hold one of their 3-day post-draft rookie mini camps from Friday through Sunday or Saturday through Monday on one of the 2 weekends following the draft. So I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll end up with May 3rd through 6th. Maybe we'll end up with May 10th through 13th. But either way, one of those sets of days we'll end up having our rookie mini camps. Oh man, I'm so excited, boy. Then May 13th is the rookie football development program. That's big time because that's when they basically, bring the rookies over for those presentations. Like, this is how you manage your money. This is how you manage your time. It's kind of like initiation in a way. Like, for those of y'all that went to college, those first couple of days where they're showing you around the campus, telling you how to use certain facilities, how to manage your time, your classes and things like that. It's like the NFL equivalent to that. And then the last notable date before because we don't even really know when like training camp and all of that stuff starts, but then we have the spring league meeting May 22nd through May 24th, and that's pretty important as well. I'm excited to see what happens from that because that's another thing where it's kind of like we're discussing rules and maybe we feel this certain way when it comes to like the NFLPA changing certain rules, like how teams can practice. Maybe things like that can come from this as well. So a lot of things can happen. All of these days matter for one reason or another. Now there's different degrees, varying levels of importance, but at the end of the day, every date that we talked about today is relatively important, literally other than April 15th, because that's the day that other teams get to finally start practicing again because we have a new head coach. We practice April 1st, but outside of April 15th, every other date that I talked about in this video pertains to us one way or another. We're completely rebuilding the franchise, so I'm hoping Adam Peters, Eugene Shin, Dan Quinn, Josh Harris, all of those guys are taking every single one of these dates to the utmost seriousness, like as far as their capabilities allow them. I hope they're doing their absolute maximum due diligence with everything here. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, man. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Again, I have so many fun video ideas and I gotta hurry up, man. I know I'm doing like 2 videos a day. I'm trying to get it up to 3 because I have so many things that like at a certain point some of these videos won't make sense. Like once we get to like the combine, a couple of my videos won't necessarily make sense because I'm trying to make some predictions. Once free agency starts and guys start getting signed, those certain videos won't make sense at that point. It's like if I don't come out with certain videos before free agency starts, I might as well just go ahead and delete them off my computer. Same thing with the draft. I need to get certain mock drafts out. I need to get film sessions done, all of that type of stuff before we get to the draft as well. So I just have so many video ideas, so many windows, so many notes, so much information, research, data, numbers, stats, grades, so many different ideas. So man, just stay tuned. I promise you, if every day you need to go check that RicoScores YouTube channel, because I promise you, since the last time you checked, there's more than likely another video uploaded. Trust me. So make sure y'all stay tuned. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.